Craig Wright says, and the narrator says, is a play about time. It's wonderful as we watch this play to hear the narrator tell us time only goes in one direction. But in our lives and in our world, I rarely think we think that way. In our lives, I see my life as sort of one giant day. I don't separate the past so much from the present, and certainly not from the future. The Pavilion tells us that we have to keep going forward no matter what the cost. And it's a wonderful, wonderful image for us to keep in our minds as we look at the value of our lives and the time we have to spend together with those we love, and the time we spend doing things we love and doing things we don't love in this world. In the Pavilion, the character of the narrator talks about a respite, a resting place, a sheltering place for us where the human project can unfold. And the Pavilion, the image of the Pavilion in the play, The Pavilion, is just that. It's a century-old dance hall where people come together and find wonderful times to celebrate, times to reunite, and times to really look at their lives. So for me, the shelter house is such a perfect place. It is a respite in the storm, I think, for all of us in our lives. It's one of those places in Cincinnati where you can leave the entire city behind and walk into those mammoth, beautiful, sheltering walls and feel completely at peace and completely at home. There are three terrific people that bring the Pavilion to life. Jay Stratton plays Peter, who's coming back to his high school reunion, guitar in hand, looking for a little bit of redemption and to complete a love story that was cut short 20 years ago. Annie Gioni is the love of his life, who is at that reunion and has her own closures to make about what did and didn't happen 2 decades prior. And Jeffrey Kuhn is our guide. He is our narrator. He also plays about 15 to 20 other characters in the piece. And Jeffrey is the person that kind of takes us by the hand as we walk into the shelter house and transforms the shelter house into the Pavilion, where memories and future plans can be made. They are 3 actors, all of whom have worked at the Playhouse since I left the Playhouse. So it's a reunion in a way, even though they haven't worked together. Those 3 actors have spent some great times doing shows at the Playhouse, as have I, and now we're all doing this new project together. As a play, at this time in my life, the Pavilion is an amazing gift. It's given me the chance to work with Ed Stern, who I respect so much, and we've spent so many years talking and bickering and challenging each other over ideas. He's been such a good friend to me and to ETC, so it's very special to me to have this time with Ed doing this play about time. The Pavilion is also special in my life at this time in that coming back to the Playhouse after being gone 20 years and doing a play about a 20-year reunion, it's wonderful timing. It gives me a chance to really rejoice in my good memories of the Playhouse and all the good times that I spent there and how I became the person I am now through that long period of time that I was there, but also to realize that I've been gone longer than I was there. In just the way when we leave high school behind or college behind, the time we spend away from that institution ends up being longer than the time we spent there. I actually spent 12 years at the Cincinnati Playhouse. I started a week after my graduation from undergraduate school and was planning to be there for about a year. And as it turned out, it became my actually in-person grad school, for lack of a better description. I started as the assistant to the producing artistic director and grew to become the associate artistic director. Well, in the 80s, which was my time there, it was a time of great growth and change for the Playhouse. It was a time when renovations of the building were taking place, the plaza was restored, the shelter house was renovated. It's changed a lot now that I see the rehearsal hall that has a window in it, and now that I see so many, many people. I would say our staff in those days were maybe about 1/3 to 1/2 the size of the staff of the Playhouse, and certainly to run 10 shows as you do now. We just started that trend back in the 80s when we reopened the shelter house. One of my fondest memories at the Cincinnati Playhouse was opening night of Traveler in the Dark, which was the first show that I ever directed with my union card in the shelter house after working there for years, and it happened to open right around Easter time. And it was a play about grief and coming to terms with grief and redemption. And it was such an amazing experience to feel like the whole place was being reborn. It was a new play then by Marsha Norman, and we ended up moving that show to New York. So for my first show to open on Easter weekend and then to end up having that show move off Broadway, that's just one of my happiest memories, perhaps because it was a real coming of age for me to finally go from being in the office and behind the scenes to actually getting to work inside the theater.